Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Hitting the Field podcast. It's your host, Jeremy Brener, and today we are here to explore and celebrate one of HTF's newest members, Mr. Nick Geddes. Nick, welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Things seem to be kind of on the upswing. It appears maybe, so I'm doing a lot better and excited to be here.
Yeah, and Hitting the Crew gives our listeners an opportunity to get to know more about the people that are behind the scenes at Nick. This is the first time that we've allowed someone that just joined in 2020 to be part of the show. So, Nick, congratulations on being the first to achieve this. But we're going to get to learn a lot about you today. And really, it's just kind of where you want to start. So, where does the story of Nick Geddes begin, according to you?
Well, I'd have to start back where I'm from, and that's in a place called Valrico, Florida, which, for those who don't know, it's right outside of Tampa, Florida. That's where I grew up. And for me, it was like heaven to me was to live there in that town. And I enjoyed having to go to Tampa for anything. And I went to school in Plant City, Florida, which was right down the road. So I kind of got to go to all these little towns that were all outside of Tampa growing up, which was very, very good for me. And then after that, I came to Florida Gulf Coast University for 2 years, did my time there, and then transferred to UCF and just finished up my first year. And obviously, it ended up kind of not as what the way you would have thought it would have ended, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So, but.
And here we are. Yeah. So, growing up, you live in Valrico. How far from Tampa is it? Is it like a quick drive? Is it a bit of a drive? How far is it? I'm trying to east.
It's about 30 minutes.
Okay.
30 minutes.
That's
East.
similar to where I am from Houston, so it's that's pretty normal. I'm trying to use my experiences to try to compare yours to try to get a better idea of what makes sense. Try to put some picture in my brain as to what your world looked like. But do you have any siblings? How did you grow up? Were you an only child? How was life growing up for you?
One sibling, my sister, who is about 5 or 6 years older than me now. So I grew up like that, pretty standard mom and dad in the house. That was how I grew up. So nothing real fancy there, but yeah, one sibling, and it was a really good time growing up. I was really big into sports. That's the only thing I was really interested in. I wasn't interested in cars, wasn't interested in much of anything else, but sports, and that's where I continue to be at today. That's the only thing I really have an interest in.
Yeah. So were you more so kind of just you watched it? Like what did you play any sports growing up? How many? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, I remember playing t-ball when I was a kid, and then I played football a little bit until I got to the point where I wasn't getting big enough for it. So mom pulled me out of that. And then I found soccer, and soccer kind of became my love playing wise. And I played that all the way through high school. But watching sports has been really what I love to do, and I've watched almost every sport there is. I love all of them, and that's why right now it's really struggling without it, obviously, because it's really all I watch is watching sports. So sports is a really big part of my life, and I mean, without it, I don't say how much of a life I'd have, to be honest with you. So
why sport? Like, how did you get kind of acclimated to that? Was it someone in your family? Was it just kind of a natural thing? How did that like become a big focal point in your life?
My dad was a big sports nut his entire life, and he passed that on to me. And whenever we would have conversations, I hardly remember many conversations that we ever had that didn't involve sports. It was just sports, and I got so much knowledge from him, and he would show me books that his dad had gave him when he was a kid, and I just learned so much from that. So as far as I can remember, I just got it from him, and I continue that going forward. And you know, that's a really big part of me is my dad in my life, and he really influenced the way I went with my life in that respect.
Did your sister play any sports growing up? Was it kind of like you saw her play, or was she like the total opposite from you?
I mean, she played softball, and she played that for her entire childhood growing up. So we both played. I was definitely way more into it. Like she didn't really watch the sports like I did,
Hmm.
but yeah, we had a nice routine where we would both play on Saturdays, and Dad would come to my games, Mom would go to her games, and
Hmm.
that was kind of the routine for years and years.
Yeah, and like, what is your favorite like if you when you look back on that, what is there like a memory or two that stand out for you during that time?
During the time of playing sports,
Yeah. Like when you're really young.
I think the rush of getting up on Saturday morning to go. I was a big morning games. I loved morning games. I used to love getting up on Saturday mornings and the routine of getting up at like 8 o'clock and watching whatever game was on NBC, the Premier League. I'd watch soccer in the
Yeah.
Premier League. I'd watch that game. I'd probably see about half of it, and then you go straight to the field. And I used to love that routine so much of getting up early and getting ready and watching what you're about to go do. And it really helped me, it really helped me get excited and even more excited, really, than I already was for sports. And so that probably my favorite memory. It really is just getting up early and getting to just stick in that routine every single Saturday. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I can relate to that too. My Premier League was always on Saturday mornings in my house as well. So, um, but would you watch games with your dad? Like, would your dad have it on? Did he play before you did?
Yes, my dad played soccer in college when he was, yeah, back way back when. Obviously, he played soccer in college, so he was the one that really got me into that, and we would watch it together all the time. And that's where that really started. I mean, absolutely. If sports was on, he was watching it. If he didn't know it was on, I'd let him know it was on, and we would be watching it. That was just, I mean, that's all. It's the easy way I can put it. That's all we did was we watched sports, we played
Yeah.
sports, we talked about it. It used to drive my mom insane. But that's just the way we were.
So was like when did soccer for you kind of go from like something that you did to something that you kind of because there's a point during a youth soccer career when you kind of have to decide whether you're going to make this a higher priority or whether you're just going to let it go by the wayside. And that the decision usually comes, I mean, I guess it depends on when the clubs start. The clubs these days I feel like start earlier than they usually do. um I feel like they start like 6 or 7 years in, but sometimes some clubs start like when they're 9 or 10. So like for you, when did your club start? Did you play club growing up, and if so, when did that like start for you?
I can say I started playing soccer. The first time I started playing, I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I had played baseball up to that point, and I was pretty into baseball. And then all of a sudden, I got into soccer. I just said I want to play it, and that's when my dad started showing me how to play it. When I was like 9 or 10, I played about 2 years of just like regular rec, and then I realized that like I wanted to play travel, and then at that point, I had to pick. So I was probably around 12 years old. I want to say 12 or 13 years old, where I realized I had to pick one or the other, and I just picked soccer and ran with it. Um, and it was the best decision I made because I was not playing baseball at a travel level
Yeah.
whatsoever. So soccer was something I could do in that level, and it was much lighter schedule, I guess you could say, because I used to when I played soccer and baseball at the same time, I used to play 2 games in a day,
Hmm.
and 4 practices a week and all that, and that was pretty cool. But it was kind of cool to be able to as well to stick to one sport and try to like get better at that specifically and train for that the way that you have to train for that. And
That's a
um,
strenuous schedule.
yeah, it was. Yeah, I can't say much school was getting done around that time. But, um, but no, yeah, around that time, 12, 13 years old is when I had to make that decision, and I think it was the right decision for me because that's when I really took off in soccer for myself.
Did you feel like, because soccer is very similar, I guess, to t-ball in a sense. Because I mean, I was a soccer player, and my brother was a baseball player, so we kind of made that decision when we were younger, and we kind of just stuck with it. But I mean, I guess in your story is a little less traditional, where you start when you're 9 or 10. Like when I was 9 or 10, like there were like they were ranking us. They had like this team played in this division, this team played in that division, and it was pretty serious. Did you feel like you were like when you started that you were a little bit behind? Did you feel like there was a learning curve to it that you had to pick up a little bit quicker than the other people that you might have been playing with?
Absolutely. Until that time where I just said I wanted to play. I mean, the real story is we played one time in PE when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and before that, I had never touched a soccer ball in my life. Never watched a lick of it. I hardly knew what soccer. For some reason, that was the one sport that I never gravitated to at the time, and my dad had never really talked to me about it, even though he played it.
Yeah.
And so I saw it in PE one time, and I remember the next day just being like, I want to play soccer, and that was it. I just took off from there, and yeah, it was definitely a learning curve for me because you get out there and it's like, when you're that small, everybody's just kind of kicking it or whatever, I guess you could say. But as I got a little older, then there's more than just kicking it around and running around. There's a lot more to it. So, but I was lucky enough to have my dad with me through that process because he was able to teach me all the little things that worked, and I think that's what made me get better quicker. Is because I had somebody like that to help me. So, but I would definitely say I was pretty lost out there when I got out there because I thought it was just going to be just scoring goals all the time and just doing that, but that's not what happened. But
Was
yeah,
that frustrating for you a little bit?
was that what?
Frustrating for you a little bit?
A little bit because I see other people scoring all the time and all that, and I just wondered how it was so easy for them, and I couldn't get it at the time, but it wasn't really a frustrating time for a while because I remember the next year, like then I got comfortable with it and it started coming along much better, and I was able to start rolling with it. So it was a frustrating time even for the first year, but after that, I felt pretty comfortable with it.
You have to. I think with that it does take a little bit of time. Even for me it took a little bit of time. Even like once the club ball started for me is when it started. It took me a couple of years to really get the hang of it. But was there like a moment that stands out for you where you were like, okay, like I'm gonna take this to the next level. I'm like decent at it, you know?
Um, I remember when it was like my second to third year, my last year before I played travel, I was on a team and we weren't very good,
Mhm,
and so I guess I had an opportunity to stick out more on that team, I guess you could say.
mhm.
And at that time, not a lot of kids. I was about 11 years old. A lot of kids weren't good at like shooting with both feet, and for whatever reason, that year I was showing real well with my left and my right foot, and I was the only one on our team that really could do that. And I remember my coach saying, I had a really good year that year, and my coach was like, you need to try out for travel because you're ahead of people that are here playing rec, and that was kind of the turning point was him telling me I need to start playing travel, and he was able to put like a good word in for me when I went to tryouts, so I was able to have more of a look at me, I guess you could say, because I
Yeah.
didn't know much of the process, and so I'd say that was the point was that team that I was on where I was able to stick out more, and it just made me like look more presentable, I guess you could say, around the other players.
So you try out for travel ball. What was that experience like for you? Did you notice that you belonged at that point?
I did not think I belonged. I thought it was I did not think everybody else was running circles around me. They technical wise of the game, they were way ahead of me. And a lot of guys I went to school with were trying all the time, and I'm like, man, y'all just got this. I don't. And but it worked out in the end for me, and it was really cool. But I remember that first tryout, I was so overwhelmed and nervous, and it wasn't a great first day of tryout. But luckily, the last 2 days, I was able to pick it up. So, but absolutely, I was overwhelmed.
What positions did you play primarily?
I started up playing up front um, because it was more of the easiest thing to learn was to just stick up front, and then when the ball gets there, just shoot it. And that was easier at the time. But then as I got older, I kind of turned into playing like defensive midfield once
Hmm.
I got better knowledge of the game, and um, I was able to be a pretty good defender. So when I got older, yeah, central defense, central midfield, and center defense is when I started playing as I got older.
Yeah, they stuck me in the back too. They put me in the back. They were like, Jeremy, you're probably not one of the faster kids, so we're gonna keep.
That's what happened too. I could say that too. Everybody got faster, and I just kind of was just there.
I just
So
stayed.
I couldn't get past anybody up front anymore.
Mm.
So once the competition changed.
Yeah, that's when you know. But um, so you're traveling. What like how far do you travel for matches on Saturdays?
I want to say the farthest I ever traveled would have to be around the Auburndale area.
Okay, I mean that's on the other side of Florida from where you are.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably like about an hour. There's probably like about an hour drive, Auburndale, and then going north, maybe Bushnell around there.
Hmm.
Um, that's probably the farthest we went north and south. But I was lucky a lot of the tournaments because I wasn't really a big. I didn't like to travel really. I like to stay in the area. So a lot of the tournaments were here in the Tampa area. So that worked out pretty well.
Now, what is the Tampa club scene look like for soccer? Like, try to describe it as best as you can.
Well, there's a team here in Brandon, Florida. If
Hmm.
you know where that's at, it's like right next to Valrico, and then
Somewhat, yeah.
yeah, there's a team in Brandon, and they're kind of like known as the most competitive and hardest one to make the team for.
Yeah.
So they kind of run things, and then there's another one that is out of um, what do you call that? Dover. There's one out of Dover and Riverview. They're kind of like, which are just other little cities around here.
So
Uh,
every like mini city has their own club, pretty much.
yeah, kinda. That's
Hmm.
kind of how it works. There's not many options though
Yeah.
around. Like, if unless you want to like go, because you have to stay within your lines of home too and all that. So, it's really those two is the ones around where I'm at.
Hmm. And do you have like a favorite moment from any of these tournaments or matches that you played during travel ball?
My favorite moment. It was a tournament, but it was a weird. It wasn't like traditional soccer. It was called 3v3,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we used to have 3v3 tournaments, and it was six of us that played, and we had a coach, and it was our coach from. It's our middle school, high school coach decided to coach us,
Hmm.
and it was just 3v3 soccer, and we did tournaments like that, and I had so much fun with those tournaments because those would be like an all day affair, and it was 3v3, and you're playing with all the guys that you go to school with, so you had that chemistry with them and everything. So I enjoyed the 3v3 tournaments more than anything that I did in like regular travel ball. I really
How does
did.
that work exactly?
The
Like so,
3v3.
so how is the field like condensed, obvious? Like how does that look like?
Yeah, it's like a little condensed field. If I could, it'd probably be about the size of a basketball court. So
Hmm.
I probably like the size of a basketball court and the width, maybe just a little bit wider on the width part of it. And then the goals are just like, about a quarter of like, a regular soccer goal, nothing huge. So it was I liked it because it kind of fit my style. It was like a lot of passing and
Yeah.
a lot of quick decisions. And like, I had to do that a lot when I played. So that's why I really liked it because it took out really the speed factor and all that out of it.
Yeah. 3v3 is basically like take away the strikers, take away the back four, and then it's really the midfield against the midfield, pretty much.
Yeah. And I
It
just,
does benefit players like you that are more in the midfield. I can't
Yeah,
even.
that's why
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and just
Hmm.
really the camaraderie that we had. We would all pack in a van and go together, and that was really, really cool for me. I've spent a whole weekend because it would be a Saturday, Sunday type of thing, and
Yeah.
and and I really enjoyed all that.
The tournaments, I remember the tournaments being probably the best part of the whole like experience because you kind of you play more than once in a day. You go, you eat together with the team, kind of thing, and you
Hmm.
know, like, and how close were you? I mean, you seem to be pretty close with your teammates. Do you still keep in touch with these teammates even years after y'all played?
It's been a little difficult to keep in touch after we graduated high school and everything, but a lot of us are still in the same area, and there's contact every once in a while with the guys now. They weren't really like my core group of friends, even though
Yeah,
we were teammates. They weren't like my core group, so like we would still hang out a little bit.
that's kind of how it was for me too.
Yeah, they
I,
weren't my
I,
core
had,
group
I had
of
my
friends.
soccer friends, and then I had my other friends.
Yeah, and it was just so happened that we all went to the same school, so that was kind of really cool. was that we went to the same school. But no, they weren't my core group of friends, but we still were very close when we got on the soccer field. It was like we were the best friends out there.
Yeah. So talk about your friend, your other group of friends here. So talk about their role in your story, I guess.
Oh man, I don't know how many. I could say so many good things about my friend group.
Hmm.
I really believe I have a really unique friend group. We've all been friends since we must have been like before middle school. Some of us started being friends. Like we've been, and we just added people along the way. And a lot of us go to UCF together, and that's kind of one of the main reasons why I ended up at UCF
Hmm.
was to kind of get back with the guys and everything. And we have like a core friend group of like 10 to 12 guys, and we do everything together, and it's really cool to get everybody together. We got everybody together for the first time post everything going on right now. We were able to all get together about 2 weeks ago and play golf and everything together. So
That's nice.
and it was just really, yeah, it was really cool. And I just love my friends, man. We're all the same. We're all wired the same. If you were to have this interview with all of them, they tell you the same thing about sports.
Yeah.
It, I mean, incredible how we're all wired the same. And every time we talk, it's like that's all we're talking about. And I think that's the best thing is being back at UCF would be during football season. Sundays come on and we'll all meet at like 12 o'clock.
Need your
And
Sunday group.
yeah, that's absolutely. And
Uh-huh.
I did not have that at FGCU. I did
Yeah.
not have that. I would watch football. I'd almost watch football by myself sometimes at
Mhm.
FGCU, and that's
Yeah,
not
that's hard.
fun.
That's difficult. I've been there, bro.
It's not fun.
It's
Uh,
not.
when you have about when we're here at UCF, we have about 5 or 6 guys that are all around there, and just to have that camaraderie to watch football on a
Gotta
Sunday.
bring everyone's TV out. You gotta
Absolutely. And fantasy football is crazy too.
fantasy.
We're like
Yep.
debating that all day.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I love that we're all wired the same and we have so much in common. And so that makes it so much easier to hang out with everybody. So I'm very thankful for the friends I have. I couldn't ask for better ones.
Yeah, it's nice that you get to have these people kind of be in your corner throughout multiple parts of your life. Because I mean, I guess if you look at life in chapters, you have kind of the growing up years, and then I think high school is probably. I mean, middle school is kind of it can be a different chapter depending on how dynamic middle school is for you. But high school definitely starts a new chapter, and then you have college, and then post grad for some of us. But it's and I guess in some cases you have different people throughout your life, but it's very nice, and I find it very rewarding to see people that have these people last through multiple spans of your life like that. So that's pretty neat. You mentioned golf. Do you golf a lot with them? Do you golf a lot just in general?
Oh, I love golf. Especially since this has been going on, I've been back home. I probably hit golf. I practice hitting golf balls about 3 times a week,
Hmm.
and I'm playing every Saturday or every Sunday, one of those
Yeah.
days. I'm playing tomorrow. Like that has been. I probably played golf for about 6 or 7 weekends straight. I love playing golf. I don't get to play when I'm in Orlando. I never play when I'm up in Orlando, so it's kind of making up for lost time. We love playing golf.
What's the strength of your golf game?
Oh. Mm.
What's your strength? What's your weakness? How about that? Maybe your weakness will be easier to give.
Weakness is the wedge game.
Hmm.
I'm not. I hate. There's nothing worse than having to hit a wedge shot like from 45 yards out or something like that.
Hmm.
Try to hit the green. That's the worst thing in the world. I don't care what anybody says. I hate that. It's either gonna roll on the ground for me or it's gonna sail over it. So, but to be honest, when it's in strength, it's a daily thing. Some days, some days the irons are going to be good, some days are going to be bad, and it just kind of flip flops like in that. So I'm still trying to find that recipe of getting everything consistent, but I know that's definitely gonna have to take time.
Yeah, I mean, I know. So my dad was a D1 golfer, and he would try to teach me when I was young, and it was so frustrating with and without him that I don't think I've picked up I don't think I've properly gone onto a golf course in about 10 years. Like it's been a very long time since I've played like actual golf. I've been to the driving range, and I'll go to Top Golf once in a while, and I'll hit some shots off the tee, but it's been a while since it's probably the most frustrating game, but it's also probably one of the games that I could probably still play. So it's probably something that I should pick up sometime soon. But
It's
the Tiger, Phil, Peyton, Brady, whatever we're calling that match is I guess tomorrow. We're recording this on May 23rd. It's coming out tomorrow. Are you excited about that? And what do you think about that?
it's sports. That's the best way I can say it. It's something. I'm
You're
not as
playing
I'm.
golf tomorrow.
What was that?
Your quarterback, Tom Brady, is going to be playing golf tomorrow.
I wish he was on the same team as Tiger. That's the way it should
Yeah,
have been.
what's that about?
That's the way it should have been. But I mean, I'm excited. I'm kind of excited for it. I'm not. It's not like the end all be all. Like I mean, I'm playing golf right before the match anyway. So it's like it's not like I have to be right in front of the TV at all 18 holes or whatever. I'm more interested in what's going to happen in the back nine or something like that. But yeah, I know for a lot of people, I'm sure it's a big deal for a lot of people because it's sports and it's for icons of their sports respectively.
Right.
Doing this, and it's going for a great cause, obviously. So I understand it's a really big deal in the world right now. But for me, if I can just see the last like few holes, I'm good. I don't need to watch the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. So Tom Brady is your now quarterback, the Bucks. What's your relationship like with the Tampa Bay Bucks? I know you have one, so why don't we talk about it now?
It's a I don't even know how to just it's I don't think many people understand what it's like to be a Bucks fan. The Browns get all the
This is
publicity
your
for
chance.
it. What was that?
This is your chance to
The
air your
Browns
grievances,
get
explain your
yeah,
pain.
the Browns get all the publicity for everything wrong that they've done, and I say all the time the Bucks are so lucky that they are not in the limelight more until now. Until now, because of Tom Brady, they are so lucky that they have not been in the limelight for years because it is for my entire my remembrance of football. I was in third grade the last time the Bucks made the playoffs. I don't even remember that game. So you could basically I've never witnessed a playoff game. I've never
Yeah.
witnessed a playoff game of football, and for somebody like me who loves football and loves the Bucks, and it's just the same thing. It's been the same thing for the last 13 years. It's optimism in the off season. We think we're going to do good, and then we can't kick field goals. We throw interceptions. We make dumb plays. We can't win at home for whatever reason. I've seen everything in 13 years as a Bucks fan
Mm.
that that most people probably have not seen in their remembrance of Viking football. So it is. You asked what the relationship like. It is as love and hate as it gets.
Yeah.
You put so much into it, and you just never get it in return. The passion. I mean, it sounds sad to say I have been moved to tears sometimes during some of the games when they end. It is.
It's a
It's
rough
hard.
life. It's a rough life, but I'm praying for you. But now you got Tom Brady. What when you found out that Tom Brady was going to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, what was your reaction?
I did
Where
not.
were you? Where
I
were you?
didn't think it was real. Me and my friends got on a Skype call and we were like, Tom Brady plays for the Bucks. Like, and then you just follow it with laughter because it just doesn't sound right. Uh, the crazy part is, and this is, I have never been a Tom Brady fan like most people. I
Yeah.
have been as boisterous as a Tom Brady hater,
Mhm.
and I've always argued that Aaron Rodgers was better than Tom Brady. I always was like that. And so now it's like I have to put all that aside and you know, I mean like when they play later this year, it's gonna be the first time I'm not rooting for Aaron Rodgers in a game. And I mean, it's just kind of but Tom Brady as a Buck, man, it still don't make sense. And the Gronkowski one is the one that really doesn't make sense to me. That's just I can't I have to see it on the field, man. I really have to see it. I have to like really
Honestly,
believe it.
I think I have to see a lot of things that happened in the last 3 months in real life
Yeah.
for me to even believe it. I mean,
Yeah.
so much has happened in the last 3 months that I still can't believe are real, and that's one of them. So, uh, yeah, I still can't believe it. I'm sure that it's been a crazy time for in Tampa right now. But I want to ask, like, is there a Bucks game that like? What's your favorite time at a Bucks game? Just that's the question.
At a like
Favorite
going game?
Favorite Bucks game that you've been to? Yeah.
Favorite Bucks game that I've been to?
Or that you've watched.
I would
It doesn't
been
necessarily
to.
be live if there's one that truly stands out.
I think been to would have to be. It wasn't that long ago. It was 2017, the last game of the year, and the Bucks were playing the Saints,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a game that went into the night, and we were kind of. Jameis had thrown his usual 3 interceptions. I think he had 4 maybe in that game. I don't know. You know how he is. He had done his thing basically, and to take us out of the game. And somehow we were still in it. And we started fourth quarter came. We started playing like really good, and we were down by 2 touchdowns, I believe, going in the fourth. And it came down all the way to like the last like seconds of the game, and Jameis threw up like a 40 or 50-yard touchdown pass to Chris Godwin, who was a rookie at the time, and it was right there on the sideline, and it was a buzzer beater touchdown to win the game. And to me, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal as a game, but I'm telling you, I've been to a lot of Bucks games and I have hardly seen any wins. So that's one of them. So I remember that one definitely. It's one that sticks out.
Yeah, I mean, hey, a walk off of anything is definitely, or a buzzer beater of anything is definitely a moment that doesn't leave you very very much. It doesn't leave you at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least in the foreseeable future. So I can totally get why that is there. Were you at the game with your dad, friends? Who was at the game with you?
I was there with my uncle. My uncle we went to about 4 or 5 games that year. We, for whatever reason, we just started going. And so we went to a lot of games that year, and that was the only one they won. So
there you go.
But yeah, I've been to a lot of Bucks games, and usually I've gone in years where we just weren't really good. I would go just to see players that I really wanted to see play. Like I've seen Aaron Rodgers, seen Drew Brees a handful of times. I've seen Peyton Manning. I've seen a lot of guys like that over the years. So that's pretty much the lure that I used to have going to Bucks games, was to see the other quarterbacks.
I've been to one Bucks game in my life. So my freshman year at UCF, I don't know if they still do this anymore, or they haven't. They might have. I don't know if they've done it since that year, but they would take a bus. Like they would offer a discounted group tickets for a Bucks game.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends and I saw it. It was a Thursday night game against the Falcons. It was 2000, I believe, 16. And it was my first time at Raymond James. And I just remember, like, I was very impressed with the stadium. I can see why it hosts, like, national big-time games, like the national championship from, what was it, this year or the previous year? It was the previous year, right? Yeah, because this one was in New Orleans. So I can understand why people use that as a stadium. I don't blame USF for wanting that stadium, even though it's on campus. But yeah, no, it was a cool experience. Bucks games are definitely definitely fun. I've been to a couple Texans games, but and I wouldn't say one was particularly better than the other in terms of experience, but it was a lot of fun. I had a good time.
Yeah, I think it's a very underrated stadium. Very underrated. And they did a lot of renovations on it about 4 years ago, kind of around the time that you went, I think, was then they really finished the renovations. So they've done a lot with it. And I think the Cannon Fire, I think it's one of the coolest things in the league.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people think it's kind of corny or whatever, but I mean,
I
love
but
it.
it's still it's a little corny, but I mean, I think all cool gimmicks like that in a stadium need to have a little bit of corniness.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's become kind of like a call, like the Bucks radio, Gene Deckerhoff. I'm not sure if you know who that is. He's been like the Bucks. He's been the Bucks radio guy for about 30 years, and he's like super famous in this area. And it's become like kind of like a folk thing for him to like say whenever we score a touchdown, it's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 touchdown Tampa Bay, fire the cannons. And like it's just kind of like that's childhood, like growing up with you years and years. So I love all that stuff.
Who's your favorite Buck?
All time?
All time.
Mike Allstott.
Okay. Allstott up the gut.
Allstott up the gut. That was I dressed up as him as a kid. Like big Allstott fan for sure.
You can't tackle him. It's impossible.
Oh, I think he has the best highlight tape in the league. I think
he's up there.
It's a damnedest highlight I've ever seen.
For those of the listeners who don't know who Mike Allstott is, search him on YouTube. He's definitely worth your time. I would describe this. He's like Marshawn Lynch before Marshawn Lynch.
I think even amped up a little bit.
Amped
Like,
up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, in terms of
nobody
size,
really
he's
like
bigger than Marshawn Lynch.
nobody really liked him. He was a fullback, and he ran almost for 1,000 yards one year as a fullback.
Mm-hmm.
They used the fullback so much.
Yeah.
Bucks offense did, and back in those days, I mean, he was God, man, he was something. I caught the tail end of his NFL career, but I remember as a kid, my family was really big into him, and so Mike Allstott, man, I love Mike Allstott.
Yeah. I want to transition back into your life a little bit here. So, high school. How was high school like for you?
The social part was awesome.
Uh-huh.
I enjoyed the social part, but the school part was what really I was not. The high school part for me, I never really got into the school part of it. And I
Well,
did not.
everyone knows high school isn't about school.
Yeah. But it regretted me. I regretted it because I did not have the grades that I had always. It's like at high school, it's like I hit a block with grades. So
Mm-hmm.
I had to really bunker down to even get into college. So,
But hey, you got there and you're almost done with it. So
oh, yeah, I fixed. Once I got to college, it was a different story. But I mean, to get FGCU I'm very lucky that school took me in. So, because oh
so
man.
what was your favorite part about high school then? Let's not talk about the bad parts. Let's talk about the good. Like, what was so good about high school for you?
I used to love. I went to a high school in Plant City, as I said, and my high school was in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was literally in the middle of nowhere, and I remember there was not much around there, but I loved like a Friday was the same routine during the fall, as many people go to football games, obviously during the fall, but we had a great routine of going up to there was like the only sandwich shop there was one sandwich shop that was in the middle of nowhere. It was the only place out there by the school. We would go there after school and get a sandwich, and then it would go straight to back to school, and we'd have a tailgate, and you would just tailgate for 2 or 3 hours for the football game, and then after the football game was over, we would drive about 20 minutes to Valrico, and you'd be at Beef Brady. We'd go to Beef's,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a routine every single Friday in the fall, and we're all together. And there were just so many of us, like even people that weren't even really my friends, they were my friends that night, and everybody just was like one. So I really enjoyed all that experience on those days.
You were my friends that night.
Yeah, that night everybody was friends, and then you never would talk to them again. But everyone during a football game, everybody talked to each other. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
So,
I like that.
um, I do think that Plant City is the home, is where Kyle Tucker went, and Kyle Tucker being the Astros right fielder. That's why that name sounds familiar to me. Do I have that right, or did he go to a different school? And I'm just like being
Well, it's kind of confusing. So like he went to Plant High School. Plant High School is out in actual Tampa.
okay.
Yeah, that's
So that's
and
Plant in a Plant City.
yeah,
What?
Plant.
What's
No,
that?
Plant City is just Plant City. There's Plant City High School out there, and then
Oh,
there's one I went to was called Durant, which is on the other side of Plant
okay.
City. Plant is its own thing out in Tampa.
So there's a Plant City,
Hmm.
and there's a Plant High School, but it's not in Plant City.
Yes, it was confusing to me too
But
growing
you
up.
went to Durant High School, named after, I'm assuming, Kevin Durant. No.
Not quite, but hey, fun fact: if you remember Ryan Rayburn, he went to Durant.
Okay. All right. There you go.
But yeah, and I wish it was Kevin Durant. But
But I mean, so yeah, so you go to football games. That's something that I didn't really get in my high school experience. You would think that being in Texas, you have that
yeah,
experience. For my school was not a big football school. We were more of we were very academically charged, and we were a big soccer school actually. We went. I remember we got to leave school early to go to our school's like state championship game. That was pretty cool. We were a big soccer school, but Derek Carr went to my high school, and ever since then, I don't think we've been to the playoffs. And he left the school probably in like 2006. So like we haven't been. I don't think we've had a winning season since Derek Carr was our quarterback.
oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Not very-
were. We weren't like a football school either. We were definitely a baseball school.
Yeah.
Big baseball in the
Okay.
Tampa area is huge. So there are a
Yeah.
lot of schools. There's a lot of like I was kind of about to say with Plant High School, like Kyle Tucker came out of there, Wade Boggs came out of there,
Hmm.
Fred McGriff. There's a few guys that came out of Plant High School as
Yeah.
well, and there's obviously so many other players out of Tampa. So most schools in Tampa I find are baseball oriented, except for like Armwood, which is obviously the big football one here.
So you mentioned baseball. Now the Rays are in Tampa. What's your relationship like with the Rays?
That's kind of like my I kind of the heart and soul team I think of Tampa. Like I
Uh-huh.
think for me specifically, I think I've gone to more Rays games than anything else, and I actually really enjoy the Trop. Again, I mean I do. From the outsiders looking in, a lot of people don't get it, the lure of the Trop, but like I enjoy it. And the drive doesn't bother me as much. I think if you really want to see the team, you'll go see them. That's the way I've always looked at it. And people say that baseball inside is not baseball, but it feels good in there. I have to say it
You're
feels
still
good.
playing the same game. I can confirm this.
You're playing the same game, and it's 72 degrees all the time.
Yeah. What's
So
not to like about that?
what was that?
What's not to like about that?
I don't know. I mean, I'll admit it's a little ugly looking on the outside, but on the inside they've done a lot of renovations to it, and I think it looks as good as it can. The only problem is, I guess, for everybody, I wish they could pick it up and just put it in the city of Tampa because it's not even in Tampa.
What if
Uh,
the Trop was painted orange, like an orange?
oh, please, please, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, that grayish color, I don't think is the right one either, but I wouldn't say
What
orange.
if turf was orange?
What was that?
What if the turf was orange?
I don't want anything orange. Nope. We don't need
What
anything
if it was
orange.
blue? Like a ray blue, like a
I
Ray's kind of blue.
we can have a blue chop. I can work with that.
Hmm.
Not orange. No.
Favorite Rays game that you've been to?
Ooh, favorite Rays game I've been to. It's I'm gonna go like recency kind of, and uh, it's not even for the Rays' sake, but we saw the Angels play in 2018, I think it was. Yeah, 2018. We saw the Rays and the Angels play, um, and that was Otani's rookie year, and
Okay.
I've never seen so many people out there just to see Otani. Mike
Wow.
Trout was playing in this game as well, and everybody was there to see Otani.
Wow.
And regardless what Otani did, the game to me was significant because it was my first time seeing Mike Trout, and
Uh-huh.
Mike Trout that night hit a ball that I don't think I've ever heard the sound of the bat like I did that night.
Yeah.
That ball, I never remember seeing it land. I think it hit the catwalk. And this thing was, I remember looking at it later that night, and it must have been hit. I think the estimated distance was 480 feet. I mean, this ball was going to hit the back of the trop if it landed.
That's the thing about the Trop too is because it's indoors and because it's like it's weird shape and whatever you want to call it. Um, it has like you can hear things differently in that.
Yeah, it's kind of like because all the noise doesn't go out of the stadium. It kind of sucks right back into the middle. So for whatever, yeah, and it had to do with Mike Trout being Mike Trout as well. But I mean, that to me was memorable for me because I've never seen a baseball. I've never heard that sound of a baseball before. Like a lot of people used to say, like Bo Jackson when he hit a baseball, you had to turn around to see who hit that ball. I mean, it was a wake up call to see Mike Trout hit that. I mean, so uh, just for sake of recency, I mean that would be my most memorable Rays game I've been to recently was to see the other team do something good. But I mean, it was worth it for me.
The sounds in there are different. Like I was there for the playoff game, game 4. It was this past year, and I went with some hitting the field people. And it was super loud in there because they were playing Houston too, and I was like the only Astros fan in the whole stadium, so I was surrounded by like Rays fans, and it was a lot of fun. That was a fun day. It didn't go the way I wanted it to, but um, it was a fun experience that I don't think you can get in any other stadium across the country. I think that there's something about the Trop that is desirable. I get that it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do think that there is something that people are missing about it. But I mean, look, you've been to more games to the Trop than most people, most baseball fans. So you get that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, seeing it in the playoffs and just full, it was just a great moment. I thought it was a great moment because the Rays fan base I think takes a lot of flack from outsiders who don't really know the whole situation with the Rays stadium, and they may say we don't have a fan base. The Rays do have a good fan base. The TV ratings are outstanding and rise every single year in the market, and it frustrates me. A lot of people say the fan base is this and that. It's a really confusing situation, the way that it's set up with the stadium and how it's on the other side of the water. It's in a different county than Hillsborough, and so it makes it very challenging for people to get over there. But to see it filled like that for the first time in so long, because it had been about 5-6 years since we made the playoffs, it was just a great moment. I think it showed people, like, we do have a fan base that can get out there, and you see how loud it is, and I thought the atmosphere looked great on TV. It was really loud, and I think it looked very fun to have been at.
It definitely has a character that I think only people that have been inside the Trop can really understand. So kind of focusing back to you here a little bit. I want to play a game with you really quickly. It's a rapid fire game, so give me the answer that comes first to your head. And I usually use this as a way to kind of transition between topics. So are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Favorite food?
Chicken wings.
Okay. Favorite wing sauce?
Hot buffalo.
Okay, just the normal buffalo.
Normal buffalo.
Okay. Um, favorite favorite color?
Blue.
Okay. Favorite vacation spot?
Charleston, South Carolina.
You've been to Charleston, South Carolina.
Love Charleston, South
All
Carolina.
right. Talk about Charleston, South Carolina.
I remember going there. My dad was from South Carolina, so
Okay.
we went there. We went to South Carolina a lot when I was a kid. I finally made it to Charleston specifically a few years ago, and I fell in love with the city. And we've gone back there now 3 years in a row. Hopefully, whenever all this settles down, we can go back again. I love Charleston and the historic. It's so historic. So, and I'm a
Mhm.
big history person, so I love hearing all about that there.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I hear nothing but great things about Charleston. It's definitely somewhere I want to go someday.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so favorite vacation spot. Um, favorite athlete, just all time.
Favorite athlete all time,
Yeah,
Johnny Bench.
why Johnny Bench?
It's more of a symbolic thing. My dad, and I haven't mentioned it yet in the podcast, but my dad passed away when I was 16 years old,
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
and like I've mentioned out to the podcast, I had a very good relationship with him about sports, and one of the things that he was a big Johnny Bench fan and saw Johnny Bench play, and he had a Johnny Bench signed ball, and and on it says, like, it actually says, like, greetings to my dad's name, and so it's a very personal thing that I have, and he passed it down to me, and it's a ball that I still like. It's right there on my shelf every day, right there. I see it. So Johnny Bench, just for that reason, has become my favorite athlete, and so I always go back and look at old footage to see what he was like and things like that.
Yeah, that's powerful. Like um I'm sorry to hear about your dad. But how has your life changed since after he passed away, which I'm assuming was like 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, it kind of was a wake up call to me,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, because I mentioned a little bit too about the high school. My grades were not very good, and after that happened, they continued to get kind of bad. But you know, you think about, like, what would your dad want for you to do? Continue to go down a bad path like that with grades, or come out of it better. And so it kind of woke me up a little bit, like, you need to do him proud and stuff, and do yourself proud as well. And so that kind of was a wake up call for me to start doing a lot of things differently with my life, and trying to kind of like be better.
It kind of like forced you to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, it did. And the other thing that I didn't mention was there's a lot of things where sports was so heavy in my mind. Like I said, I didn't interest in anything else. There was a lot of things I didn't know how to do. I didn't want to learn how to do any other things, like kind of like handiwork, I guess you could say, because my dad was very handy, tried to teach me about it. I didn't want to learn about it. And so when that stuff like that happens, and you feel like, okay, now I don't know what to do, and I've got nobody to teach me now. So it's been, and those are things that are very important to me, is to like kind of know what my dad did and everything. So it's forced me to grow up and kind of learn how to do more things, and thankfully I've taken that on pretty headstrong lately. So
That's
that's,
awesome.
that's to me that's the biggest thing.
I think growing up is very difficult for anybody. But I think, and especially I think being, because you were what, 15, 16 when he passed?
16.
16. So I mean, being 16 years old is difficult as it is. It's probably one of the most difficult times to be alive, and then to add, the death of your father, probably one of the more influential people in your life. I mean, that I can't imagine what kind of pain and what kind of what kind like I can't imagine just the difficulty it placed on your life. But it in a way it's made you stronger. So it has allowed you to his impact allows you to, he still impacts you even, after he's passed. So that's it's awesome to hear. But yeah, let's talk about some more happy things. But
Yeah,
yeah, so you're in high school. You're thinking about, going on to college. What made you choose Florida Gulf Coast?
it was the only school that accepted me.
Okay.
I'll be
Where did you
straight.
want to go? Where did you want to go?
I wanted to go to Florida State. That
Okay.
was where I always. That's where my dad and my aunt went, and we were big Florida State fans. That's the only place I wanted to go. And I mean, I knew it wasn't in the cards for me. And then I probably could have gone after it more after the 2 years at FGCU, and I was definitely going to transfer. But I was at this point, I was more into the, I want to be close. I want to be close with my friends, and have my friends and like that, because they were all here at UCF. So um, that was more important to me then. So I'm still, it's still a great decision for me because I've enjoyed being at UCF so far.
Yeah. So you went to FGCU and then you did your 2 years there. Did you always know you were going to transfer to UCF after 2 years?
To UCF specifically?
Yeah.
No, that came. This
So
did not come until I remember back in the 2018, the fall 2018. My friends invited me to come like a football game that fall in UCF, and it happened to be the Cincinnati game, which was the college game day game.
there you go.
And my mom kind of was telling me, like, use it as kind of like, quote unquote recruitment trip, just to kind of see how you like it.
Hmm.
It was going to be a backup plan if I didn't get to FSU at the time.
Okay.
And that day I felt, like part of the school. And, we did the whole 9 yards. We were in the pit for college game day, and we were, 2 o'clock in the middle of the night in line, and the whole 9 yard. We did all of it and went to the game, and I had so much fun, and it kind of made me start thinking about it as more of a serious thing, and then just a couple more visits there, and touring the campus, and I started to think that was the place to be.
I think the college game day game was like the one game I didn't go to that year, which is so frustrating because that was the week before Thanksgiving break. It
Yeah.
was so, and I had no classes that week of Thanksgiving, so I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna leave early, and then it comes out that, oh, they're gonna play for college game day, and I was like, oh, of course they are. The one time I told myself I'll go next time they go on college game day, which hopefully will be sooner rather than later, but I do expect it will be at some point. So, why journalism? You're a journalism major. Why journalism for you?
For me, I always thought of it as, if you can't get in this is when I was younger. I thought if you can't get into sports in that area, then you could do something where you could cover it. I always had the lure of that. So as
Access.
long as I remember, I would always just be writing for fun.
Hmm.
sports type write-ups and everything, and that kind of just translated. And then I was on the paper in high school, and I really enjoyed that, and I knew that was the major for me. And then once I got to UCF, no disrespect to FGCU, but it's just not the same media wise as UCF is. It's not. There's not as much of an emphasis on it, and it's just night and day the way the programs have been, just from my
Yeah.
observation. So UCF has a lot more resources, and this show specifically, there was none of this at FGCU.
Hmm.
There was no, I didn't know any about any of this. So there's a lot more here at UCF to sink your teeth into and get going with, and so I really enjoy journalism and writing. I think to me once you get done with the interview part and all the stuff that goes before it, I think the writing part is the most fun part
Hmm.
at that point. So I really enjoy it.
What kind of stuff have you written about previously?
I just started kind of kicking the wheels with it, like for
Hmm.
NSM and everything, and I've covered a UEFA Champions League watch party at Burger U. I've covered that, and then a couple people that were on a cruise during the coronavirus outbreak, and
Gotcha.
that I kind of enjoyed that story more because it was like a little more out of my zone because I'd only done sports. And
Hmm.
that was a more obviously human story and with a very human angle because they're on a cruise during coronavirus and people
Yeah.
are putting it left and right on the cruise. So it was an interesting dynamic, and it was it was obviously when we were back at home. So it was like you had to do everything completely mobile, and
Yeah.
so it was more
Well,
challenging. And
covering
I
news
think
with just a phone is it's the way of the world, but to be where we were this past semester, the end of the semester, it was very hectic. Trying to do nightly news on phones is when you're so used to doing cameras in a studio and all that, it's definitely a culture shock.
oh,
Uh,
I could imagine stuff like that for sure. I
yeah.
mean, I
Well,
could imagine.
so you said you did like write ups like for sports stuff. Like what kind of sports would you enjoy writing for the most?
Uh, I would do. I would write about baseball, football, hockey. I,
Okay, hockey.
yeah, I mean, that was. I've always been a big hockey fan. Those are my big three of
I mean, you got the
watching.
Lightning, so I guess that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Favorite Lightning memory that you have?
Favorite Lightning memory would have to be. I've been to a few playoff games for the Lightning,
That's
so that's the
playoff hockey. There is nothing better than playoff hockey.
absolutely, absolutely, and it was for playoff hockey. I would say it's the most affordable playoff hockey that I've. It's the most affordable playoff sport that I've found to go to a playoff game. Maybe besides going to like a playoff Rays game, but it's pretty affordable, I'd say. If you're fine with sitting in the third level, which I really don't
The
mind.
atmosphere,
So,
though, in a hockey game, it's so. To me, hockey is the probably one of the only sports. I mean, I feel like every sport having fans is obviously a more exhilarating experience, but especially in hockey, I feel like the difference between watching hockey in person versus watching hockey on television is it's the biggest range than any of these sports, I would say.
yeah, I mean, football to me is better. Is better on the TV than it is in person. I like.
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes because of just what you're being able to see.
Yeah, I think if you're like on the fence about hockey or you have a bad connotation of it, just go to a game. Just all I can say. Go to a game, and if you still don't like it after you go to a game, it is what it is. But I mean, for me, I think it makes a lot of people fans when they actually go to a game. And the Lightning games, I think it's one of the best experiences in the league. How fan friendly they make it, and they really get the fans involved, and you come away feeling like you know so much more about the sport when it's over.
Yeah. I remember I was in Nashville during the playoff run the Predators had about 4 or 5 years ago. And
Hmm.
I wasn't at a game, but I was in the city, and the city was so excited about it. And just to see a team go through a playoff atmosphere. And that's what's been so unfortunate about these sports not being on is not the fact that it's just been sports off, it's sports off during the playoff time. Like April and May are notorious for basketball hockey playoffs, and we haven't gotten that. So I think that's been more of the frustrating part about the whole thing. But um, favorite Lightning player that you've, yeah,
Favorite Lightning player ever would be Brad Richards, and
Brad Richards.
yeah, he played with the Lightning from about '02 to '08, and he was one of the better players we had. He was the MVP of the playoffs in 2004 when they won the Stanley Cup. So I was a really big fan of him, and so Brad Richards would be mine.
Shout out Brad Richards. But yeah, so now we're kind of kicking the heels on. We've got about 15 minutes or so left. So I want to ask you. I know how this starts, but how did you join Hitting the Field? I asked that to everyone here. So how did you join Hitting the Field?
Well, I was in Brunson's. Was that I forgot the name of the class? Mobile journalism we were in?
Yep, that was it.
Mobile journalism, and the first day you mentioned it.
The Lightning hat.
You mentioned it, and I've never been one to like go up to people like that, like I did, and just go for it. But for whatever reason, that day I was like, I'm just gonna go talk to him and see what happens. And I was still apprehensive because I'm really bad at getting around to the social aspect of people I don't know, and it comes pretty hard to me. So I was pretty apprehensive about it, and so the first few times I was going, I was kind of like, I was just like, man, I don't know what I can do. And I was just like very scary. But then eventually, like after a few times of going, then I was like, okay, you're here, and I feel pretty good now. And I had a few people that I was able to talk to while I was there, and made me feel more comfortable. And so it really, and as later we got into this, I really enjoyed doing the podcast and everything. It got me involved, and so I've loved it so far since then.
And the thing is, when I knew this story, and I wanted you to say it because I know how it is, and I wanted you to give me credit. But I knew I was speaking to you. I knew you'd be interested, and I knew that if you didn't come talk to me that day, I would have kept pushing it on you, and until you would have finally came. Because for me at least, there's kind of like a look and like just a thought that like triggers itself. And I think when you look at when I saw you for the first time, I was like, that's a Hitting the Field guy, and I knew it. And I was like, this guy's gonna be on Hitting the Field, whether over my dead body, he's gonna be on the show. And I'm glad that that was the case, because I think what I've seen from you since January is a lot of growth. Through being on the show, being at the show. I'm glad that you stuck with it. Then we've gone, online. You've been even more active, and even now, this is probably, I know so much more about you now than I did an hour ago, and I got a lot more. I learned a lot more about you than I thought I would. So I think that's a very awesome. I think it's awesome. It's great, and I think you're gonna. And you have what, a year left?
Yeah, a year left.
Yeah. So, and you're gonna get this next year to really, really immerse yourself in the show, and I can't wait to see what we have from you. So before we sign off, I want to ask you 3 questions. I asked three questions for everybody. First of all, where do you see yourself in 2030? Where is Nick Geddes 10 years from now?
2030. Oh, that's a really hard question. Well, I haven't mapped out like everything I'm going to do so far, but I'd like to say I'd have a job that I feel pretty comfortable at. I think that's the most important to me, is just to be comfortable with the job that I have, and and furthermore, have a family at that point. I would like to think by 2030 and things like that of that nature, but I haven't really ironed out what specifically I'm going to do yet.
Yeah, where would you like to see yourself? If you had every choice in how things go for the next 10 years, what would you do?
I would probably have some kind of just, it sounds kind of, simple, but, I would be as content as ever and as happy as ever if I got, as being just like a beat writer, for sports or really anything, just at like a paper or I'm just content that way. I don't, there's not much, there's not like any like huge, like, I have goals, but like, they're not like things that I don't need the huge things of it. I'm very content with, having a journalism job in some way of nature, and knowing that my degree paid off and that I did it. And that for me is the most important.
and you've kind of alluded to the answers of these next two questions, but I ask people, pick someone from your given family, the family you're given at birth, and then the family that you choose that has been most influential to you up until this point in your life.
What was the last
So pick
question?
someone from your given family and pick someone from your chosen family, your friends, your people that your friends that you consider family. Pick one person from each of those groups that has truly impacted your life to where you are today.
I would say from my regular family, I talked to my dad a lot, and but obviously my mom, you couldn't do much in this world without a mom, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had a great mom that has been through a lot in her life, and throughout all of it, she has been able to keep going, and that's been an inspiration to me to see how much she's been through, and see how much she's had to take in this world, and she's never let it get to her as much as it could have. So my mom has been very inspirational. She's always encouraged me. I mean, hitting the field, like whenever I called her right after, I said, I think I just signed up for a sports show. And like, she was the friend. I told her, I said, I don't know if I'm do it or not. And she told me, you're doing it. And, that was it. And so she's always been that role for me. And then I've been in a relationship since I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
since I was a senior of high school. And um, my girlfriend she goes to USF. So, I mean, I, you know,
So we're disowning her.
yeah, I was about to say that. It's not too hard. Zoning her. But yeah, she's been through me for over 3 years now, and really been through a lot of hard times in my life, and has really helped me get through things. So she's been great to me for 3 years so far.
Well, shout out to the girlfriend. Shout out to your dad. Shout out to your mom. Shout out to everyone. And shout out to you, Nick. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast
Thank
today.
you.
It's a pleasure having you on. I can't wait to see what's in store for you. If you grew as much as you have in the past 5 months, I can't wait to see where you're at a year from now. So just know that I know our time together through the show didn't overlap very long, but I want you to know that I appreciate what you've done to help the show grow. I remember the last show we did in the studio, it was you and me, brother. I knew it. And that show, I was like, okay, we need to give Nick someone with a lot of experience so that he can play off of them. And I was prepared to come in that day and really give you, like, welcome you to the show kind of thing. But you held
Mhm.
your own. You held your own, brother. And that's when I knew. I was like, this Nick guy's, he's a good dude, and he knows what he's doing. So wish you a lot of luck in the future, man. If you ever need anything, you know where you can find me.
All right, thank you I appreciate it, man. I could say my last words to you is just thank you for giving me a chance. I just thank you for giving me a chance. Really, I mean, go on that show, and I was very like nervous, and I didn't know how it was going to be like being on camera. And once you get over it, you at that point, you just got to focus. You're talking about sports, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to that's what I realized there at that time, and even in the podcast, I figured that out in the draft show and everything.
It's a
So
learning curve.
definitely a learning curve, and anybody that thinks that they can just go on and just talk about sports on camera just because you know sports, it is not. You learn real quick that ain't how it works. So, um, yeah, it's been a great learning curve, and I just appreciate everything that you've done for everybody in hitting the field.
For sure, always. And you can catch all of, you can catch not just Nick's Hitting the Crew episode, but we have several Hitting the Crew episodes. You can check out the playlist on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to that. And you can also check us out on wherever you listen to podcasts, specifically Apple Podcasts. Go subscribe and download the podcast there. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hitting the Field for all the latest episodes. We recently recorded an episode, our GOAT debate between Manuel Chimoy and Robert Husby on Messi and Ronaldo. So go and check that out. It is definitely worth your time. We also talked a little bit of the Bundesliga opening up. So throughout the month of June, we will have more episodes of Hitting the Crew. We will have hopefully some news related Hitting the Field episodes with sports making its slow return back into our lives. And we are attempting to make Hitting the Field a year-round source of content. And we'll be back in the fall, hopefully, with UCF saying they are planning to have students like Nick, not like me, a post grad, on campus this fall. So we hope to bring Hitting the Field to you in the fall from our home at the Nicholson School of Communication and Media and back in our studio. Can't wait to see that, Nick, and I can't wait to see you on the show in the fall. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Hitting the Crew, and until next, we'll catch you on the flip side.